Well, greetings everyone. Welcome to Music as a Journey. I'm Peter. Today's video is going to be my response to the Prog Tag, which was put out by Alex at Beer and Vinyl a couple of weeks back. I had actually just gone back to look for his video because I wanted to double check the prompts as I read them out and show my responses. I can't find the video on Alex's channel for some reason. Alex? Explanation? I do understand that another channel has also put out a Prog Tag, so maybe Alex removed his or hid his. But anyway, my response today is going to be to the 20, whatever it was, it was 13, to the 13 prompts that were put out by Alex. All right. So we're going to start with number 1, your favorite progressive release or pickup from 2025. And in the past year, I actually did not buy all that many progressive rock albums, and much of the few, at least a couple of the few that I did get, I basically got them because I noticed they became available and I had been thinking to get them several years ago. So it was like, now's my chance, but I didn't really get into them. There is one album that I did really enjoy, and you can argue that they are not a progressive band, but I think their last 3 albums, even though the songs are short, have so much interest in the music. And so I'm talking about Styx. I just happen to be wearing this shirt. This wasn't planned, but Styx's album here, Circling from Above, came out around the summer or late spring of 2025, and it continues what they've been doing on The Mission and Crash of the Crown. So basically songs between, I'd say, like 2 to 4 minutes long, but there is just so much going on in these songs. There's a lot of references to classic 70s prog. On this one, certainly I noticed that. There are just so many different approaches and ideas. They have since added a 6th member to the band who can sing, so we now have 4 lead vocalists on here. It's just a really great album. So if you're looking for something that is really like jazz fusion or very symphonic or something, you're not going to find that. But for shorter songs with a lot of interest in the vocals and in the music and in the arrangements, I like this album. This is really good. Prompt number 2 is the most listened to progressive band in 2025. This past year, I revisited all of the albums of Opeth. The reason being was that their second to most recent album, In Caudia Venenum, I had a hard time getting into it. But their latest album, Last Will and Testament, from the end of 2024, I really liked it. And so I thought I should go back and revisit In Caudia Venenum, and then I just decided I'm not so hot on all of Opeth's albums, so I'm going to listen to each one of them at least 3 times. And so that's what I did. All of the albums, what is it, 11, 12, 13, 14 studio albums I listened to at least 3 times last year. Other than that, I also did a revisiting the recent albums of various bands, which included Yes. So I did listen to Yes's last 4 albums also 3 times. But I think, just with Opeth having that many more. So yeah, that was it. That was the band I listened to the most, and that was more or less by design. Number 3, a progressive album celebrating 50 years, something that was released in 1976. So I watched Pat over at Close to the Edge talking about I think it was his favorite pickups from last year. No, it was his top 10 favorite albums from 1976. And his number 1 album was by an Irish band called Horslips. And this is a Celtic symphony. Yes, The Book of Invasions, a Celtic symphony. So I decided, hey, I've never heard of Horslips before. I'm going to try and pick it up. And so I got a CD copy of it here. This is really good. I've only listened to it all the way through, I think 3 times now, but it's very good. This is a band of mid-70s. They, have that powerful guitar sound, but they also have some flute, or they have some other more traditional Irish music mixed in. There are some gentler songs, some more kind of like poppy type songs, powerful songs. There's just such a variety on here. I wouldn't say that their musical arrangements are as challenging as, say, something like Genesis, Ries, or even ELP, certainly. But it is just such an enjoyable album. There's not a moment on here, not a track on here where I feel, no. All of them have something that is ear-catching, and I'm particularly impressed with the variety. I also think they have at least 2 lead vocalists, so that is also cool. So yeah, very good album from 1976, Horselips, The Book of Invasions, A Celtic Symphony. Prompt number 4 is In Memoriam, an artist we lost in 2025. So I didn't take any CDs out, but I was just looking through, like, who did we lose in 2025 in the prog camp? And I think it was Rick Davies of Supertramp passed away in 2025. And the song that they mention of his is Bloody Well Right, and that is my favorite Supertramp song. I'm not a tremendously enormous Supertramp fan. I have 3 albums. I like a couple of songs from each of them, but Bloody Well Right is my favorite one. So yes, someone we lost in 2025, Rick Davies of Supertramp. Prompt number 5 is Back Like We Never Left, Show a Great Comeback album. Alex's choice was actually a great one. It was Van der Graaf Generator God Bluff, which actually is my favorite Van der Graaf Generator album. But a band that is known both for being a progressive rock band and a heavy rock band is Uriah Heep. And in 1999, they released 98, 99, 98, they released an album, Sonic Origami. And then they didn't release anything for 10 years. And the reason was, according to an interview I heard with Mick Box, that with everything going on with file sharing, they just thought, is it even worth it for us to record a new album and release one? But they finally did. It was in 2008. They came up with Wake the Sleeper. This is quite a heavy, charging album, certainly heavier than anything they released in the 1990s. And from this album, they have gone on to continue releasing another 4 albums after this one. I don't know if you would call it like really progressive. I feel that they have become more of a heavy rock band with less of those progressive adventures that they did in the 1970s, particularly in the early part. But, Uriah Heep are associated with prog somehow, and this was certainly a comeback album, coming back to releasing albums again. Number 6 is the best hit from a prog band, or at least it should have been a hit. Oh my gosh, like I really sweated over an hour about this one last night. I was just going through different albums and how about this song? That's a great song. How about this song? The chorus is awesome. But there were things like the song doesn't start fantastic right away. There's a slow build up, and if you want a hit song, slow build ups are gonna drag you down a little bit. There were some that have great catchy choruses, but then very convoluted instrumentals in the middle. Some of them, a lot of them, were just over 7-8 minutes long, and we know what radio stations think about songs that long. So I finally settled with a song that I've always thought is really great. This is a song called Change. It's the opening track of an album called Addicted by a band called Carabao. And Carabao are a melodic rock, progressive rock band. Maybe a lot of the songs, if you hear them, you'll think, oh, they're a melodic rock band. But they also do have concept albums. They have some longer songs with different parts going on in them. They have like guest musicians coming in playing saxophone, or guest vocalists or whatever. So there's a lot happening in the music on the albums. And then they're also the main man behind the project is Oliver Rusing. He has told me that the music is actually deceptively complex. Deceptively complex? It is complex, but deceptively simple. When you listen to it, you might get wrapped up in the hook or in the chorus or something, but there's a lot going on behind that. So I'm just going to play like a really short, like 6 seconds from this. I do have a video way back in my catalog. It was episode 4 of Music is a Journey, so I'll put a link to that. I do talk about Carabao only in that one, so there are more samples of music played in that video. For now, let's just hear a bit from Change from Carabao from the album Addicted, my pick for a song that should have been a hit.
If your world should ever change, better keep it down, divided.
Prompt number 7, Prog's Got Heart show an album with a beautiful ballad. So this is also one I kind of searched for a bit. This is a band called Fish on Friday and their album Godspeed. There is a song on here called She Colors the Rainbow. It is a beautiful song with piano. It's a very lovely chorus, little bit sad, a little bit melancholic, and I think it's because there's a line in the song that says that she's in a coma. So basically he is looking at his, I don't know if it's his wife, his lover, his whatever. Anyway, a woman who is dear to him, she's in a coma, and he's thinking very bittersweet thoughts, I guess. It's a lovely song anyway. So maybe I'll also play a short clip of that one too, okay? But I can only get away with about 6 seconds. After that, I might get a copyright claim. So that is Fish on Friday from the album Godspeed and the song She Colors the Rainbow for a beautiful ballad with a twist to it. Number 8 has a bit of a long description, More Than Dragons and Wizards. Oh, by the way, I'm looking at a screenshot that I took of Alex's prompts, not the actual video. Let's see here. More Than Dragons and Wizards show an album with a social political commentary or that focuses on a topic, whether a song or the whole album. No need to go full political if you aren't comfortable, but an album song, something about going on in the world. Anyway, so I am picking the debut album called On Track by a band called Dominic. And they actually have a lot of social political songs on their albums, but the second track on here is called Long Time Shadow Falls. They did, there is a video for it. I don't think it's like, you know, like they went on location to shoot the video. I think somebody pieced together footage of various things to make a video. And this mentions a lot of stuff about animal poaching. Talks about rhinos and lions and yeah, basically your theme is animal poaching going on in Africa. So that is Long Time Shadow Falls from Dominic for a song with a social or political message.
Come away, shadow, come away with me.
Number 9 is Build Your Own. So who are 3 to 4 musicians that you would love to see make an album or play together? So I really went all imagination on this one here. I wanted to start with Rick Wakeman, but I changed it after a bit. I'm going to start with a keyboard player who has a lot of versatility. He can play heavy rock, he can play classical, he can play jazz fusion. I'm talking about Don Airey, who has been the keyboard player with Deep Purple now since 2001 or so. He used to play in Coliseum 2 with Gary Moore. He played with Ozzy Osbourne's band, with Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow Band. He played on an album by Judas Priest. He's worked with Glenn Tipton. He's worked in Whitesnake. He's done lots and lots of stuff. But he's also done some solo albums. And one from around 2007, 2008 called Light in the Sky is a fantastic album. I mean, he does some ripping classical piano on there. He also does some heavy, growly organ, heavy rock instrumental type things. So I would definitely want to start with Don Airey on keyboards, and a very talented bassist, I would go with Geddy Lee. I think take Geddy Lee and Don Airey together and you've got a pretty interesting combination beginning already. Now, my favorite Genesis albums are the first 3 with Phil Collins, Nursery Crime, Foxtrot, and Selling England by the Pound. So I would like to take Phil Collins from that period because particularly on Nursery Crime, there's a bit of proto-metal going on that album in a couple of tracks. So I think we need somebody with that kind of skill on the drums to fit in with Don Airey and Geddy Lee. And my choice for guitarist might be a bit surprising. I was thinking, who would I pick? Would it be like Alan Holdsworth or someone, but maybe a bit too jazzy? And then it just occurred to me, And unfortunately, the person I'm going to pick is experiencing a very difficult time in his career right now, thanks to a disease, Parkinson's disease. I'm thinking of Glenn Tipton from Judas Priest. You see, Glenn actually was trained on piano. So a lot of that piano you hear on those very early Judas Priest albums, that's him. He also is responsible for so much of the writing on those early albums. I think it was Sad Wings of Destiny. He's credited on every track, either as the sole composer or joint composer. I think he has a lot of sense, both for heavy metal and the classical side of things. So I think he would be a great addition there to that lineup. Unfortunately, now I don't think he can play anymore because his disease has developed so far. So those would be my musicians. And then I was thinking, who would I want on vocals? I would like a female. If I can pick a modern day female, I would take maybe Alia O'Brien from Blood Ceremony, because she can also play the flute really well. Or I heard a heart song the other day and I thought, okay, so maybe Ann Wilson if we have to pick somebody from the 70s. But, you know, if we can just mix and match everybody, I'd like to hear what those 5 musicians could do together. Prompt number 10, A Face for Radio. Great album with horrible artwork. Oh, right. How about this one? This is Kestrel, who released this album, was it 76 or 75? I can't see, but somewhere around there. And they are a mid-70s prog band. I believe they're English. And somebody came up with this for the album cover, and they really were not pleased about that. However, it later on became a kind of a social, like a prog music meme. And I think there were even t-shirts with it. So they actually became known a lot because of their bizarre album artwork. So that, for weird artwork anyway, that is Kestrel with their self-titled album from, I don't know, 75 or 76 or something like that. So number 11 is a dream biopic. Who would you like to see a story about? Rick Wakeman. I would love to see a story about Rick Wakeman because I'm sure it would be very funny. Rick Wakeman is a very funny person. So I have a book of his called Grumpy Old Rock Star. It's hilarious. So I would like to see that. Of course, biopics don't always stick to the truth, and there's a lot of, like Hollywood liberties being taken in them, but it would be funny anyway. Number 12 is entitled Prog Horror, and Alex says if you don't like the word, you can use another one, and honestly, I don't particularly like the word either, just because it is used inappropriately a lot as a derogatory term for women who are usually not deserving of it. But it is a word, an English word. Anyway, so what it means is it's someone who gets around. All right, show a progger who has their hands in everyone's pie. So I'm going to show you, this is an album by a band called 7 Steps to the Green Door. They're from Germany. This is an album of theirs called Fetish. And one of the main members, one of the 4 members in the band, I don't know if there's a picture in here. Nope. No picture. Is a fellow named Marek Arnold who plays alto sax and keyboards. This is a band called Toxic Smile who are no longer in existence. They released 5 or 6 albums maybe, and they have a guy on keyboards, maybe alto sax too, named Marek Arnold. This is a band called Flaming Row. If you like Arian's concept type albums, like rock operas with different guests playing different parts and lots of variety in music, you're going to love Flaming Row. This is their 2nd album, Mirage, Portrayal of Figures, and one of the members in the band is an alto sax and keyboard player named Marek Arnold. This is a band called Cyril. Their keyboard player and possibly alto sax player is Marek Arnold. This is a band called Gabria, Every Moment, Every Minute, featuring Marek Arnold. And here's Dominic again, featuring Guy Manning from England, Sean Timms on keyboards from Australia, Dan Mash on bass, and on alto sax and also some keyboards is Marek Arnold. Okay. Here's another album by Carabao. Guest playing alto sax on one of the tracks here is Merrick Arnold. Here's an album called Lost by the United Progressive Fraternity. And among the many, many musicians featured on this album, there is Merrick Arnold. And there are at least 2 or 3 other music outfits that Merrick Arnold is a member of as well. Not all of them are prog. He's been teaming up together with a fellow German guy and done an album or 2. I can't remember what the project is. But anyway, Merrick Arnold. There's a guy who gets around. Look at this, the stack just doubled in height. So number 13, the final one, is Artsy Fartsy, Show an Art Rock Album. And then if you want to know, Alex has put in art rock is a sub-genre of rock music that aims to separate the genre from popular entertainment, with the term typically being called as the middle ground between mainstream and experimental rock. I actually don't know exactly what art rock is, but I think it is the more imaginative type of rock that doesn't go full out prog. So maybe some Pink Floyd albums fit into art rock. I'm not sure. And in fact, my choice, you could argue that I've mischosen, but I'm going to suggest the Tubes, because it has some mainstream pop rock elements in it, but there's a lot of other stuff happening in the music here, and certainly their live performances too were pretty interesting. So Alex, anybody else, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to suggest the Tubes for art rock. Okay, and that is it. That is my response to Alex's Prog Tag. If I can find his original video, I will put a link in the description. Otherwise, I'm just going to tag Alex. And thank you, Alex, for putting this together. Thank you, everybody, for watching. See you in another video sometime soon. Bye.